Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People story. The old farmhouse on the edge of town holds a special place in my heart. It's been in my family for 3 generations, dating all the way back to when my great-grandfather first settled in this area. He built that house with his own 2 hands after purchasing the plot of land for next to nothing. Back then, this was all empty fields and forest as far as the eye could see. My grandpa grew up in that house, helping his dad work the land. When he got older, it was passed down to him. Those were my dad's childhood memories, exploring the woods, fishing in the creek, and learning everything about farming from his own father. When my grandpa got too old to handle the work anymore, my dad took over. He moved into the farmhouse after he got married, raising me and my siblings there. We have so many cherished memories. Holiday dinners around the big wooden table, playing hide and seek in the hayloft, gazing at the stars from the front porch. Sure, the house is old. It could use some repairs and a fresh coat of paint, but it's still standing solid, a testament to the hard work and care my family has put into it over the decades. That's why I was horrified when a police officer showed up at my door one day claiming the city now owned the property. "Excuse me?" I said, completely blindsided. "What are you talking about?" "This property and structure are now under ownership of the city due to unpaid back taxes," the officer declared arrogantly. My mind reeled. Back taxes? How could there be unpaid taxes on a house that had been in my family for generations? "I'm sorry, but you must be mistaken," I replied as calmly as I could. "My family has owned this land for over 60 years. I have the original deed right here that I can show you." The officer barely glanced at the document before dismissing it. "That deed must be outdated because according to city records, taxes haven't been paid on this property in over a year." I was stunned. There had to be some kind of mistake. "Sir, I can assure you my family has never missed a tax payment," I said firmly. "We even have receipts of all payments made over the years. This property rightfully belongs to us." The entitled officer scoffed. "It doesn't matter what you say. The records show otherwise. Now step aside while I take care of this." He tried to push past me into the house, but I stood firmly in place, blocking the doorway. "With all due respect, I cannot allow you to seize property that does not belong to the city," I stated, "especially not when I have documentation proving my family's legal ownership." The officer looked annoyed now. "Don't make this difficult," he warned. "Refusing to cooperate will only lead to bigger problems for you." I stayed resolute. "The only one causing problems here is you by trying to take away my family's long-held home based on incorrect information. I intend to get to the bottom of this." The officer threateningly put his hand on his belt near his gun. "Are you questioning my authority here?" he said menacingly. "Not at all," I said, keeping my cool. "I'm simply questioning the facts. There has to be some kind of mistake in the records, and I aim to sort it out. In the meantime, you have no right to seize this property or enter my home." The officer looked like he wanted to argue more, but my unwavering stance made it clear I would not be intimidated or back down. "Fine, we'll see what the court has to say about all this," he huffed angrily. "But don't think you can ignore a legal order." With that, he stomped off. I took a deep breath, shaken by the encounter. I knew I had to act quickly to protect my rights. The next day, I went straight to the records office to investigate. Just as I suspected, the unpaid taxes documentation was completely erroneous. After digging deeper, it became apparent that another property with a similar address had taxes owed, not our farm. It was an honest mistake, but one that entitled officer was all too quick to use to try and seize our beloved family home. Armed with the correct paperwork, I contacted a lawyer friend of mine who agreed to help me file an injunction to halt any attempt by the city to take ownership of the property. We also notified them of their mistake with the back taxes mix-up. It took several weeks of court dates and legal filings, but finally a judge ruled in my favor, upholding my family's sole ownership rights. The entitled officer was forced to apologize for overstepping and admit he acted without proper cause. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but sadly it was not. That officer clearly had it out for me now. He started finding excuses to stop by the farmhouse, poking around trying to find any violations he could ticket me for. His harassment was obvious, but I chose to take the high road, always staying cooperative and polite during his visits. It all came to a head one night when I caught him sneaking onto my property, presumably looking for a reason to issue another citation. Enough was enough. This had gone beyond simply doing his job. I contacted his superiors and filed an official complaint of misconduct and abuse of power. An internal investigation was launched, and sure enough, multiple witnesses came forward about his unethical practices. In the end, the officer was fired from the force. Turns out I wasn't the only one he had harassed and intimidated over property rights. His downfall was trying to bully the wrong person, someone willing to stand up for themselves and bring his corruption to light. The farmhouse still stands just as solid as ever. My great-grandfather would be proud to know that his legacy remains, carried on through generations who cherish our family's history and hold it dear. We weathered the storm but came out the other side stronger. Our old house may look shabby to outsiders, but to me it's a shining example of strength, resilience, and the power of refusing to back down when you know you're in the right. The records don't lie. This land was meant to remain in my family. No amount of intimidation tactics or legal threats will ever change that. Sir, you picked the wrong fight trying to seize something that was never yours to take. But I guess some folks never learn until they lose everything. The next one is a pro-revenge story. This all happened in an EU country. I won't say which one, sorry. I did my apprenticeship in a mid to big size factory as a machine operator. After I completed my apprenticeship, I worked in production for around 1 month. Then I got called into the office and they asked me if I could do some holiday replacement, so I said yes, why not? Better hours and clean work. I got taught the systems, which were pretty easy because I manufactured those parts for 1 year. After my coworker came back from their vacation, they asked me to stay and become a part of their team, so I said yes. It sounds good. So I was now working in the sales quality department. Now, in the present time, 7 years later, our team increased from 5 workers to 15 because of restructuring, which helped us a lot. My boss retired last fall, and after Christmas we got a new young boss around my age, 27, who was a major jerk and sexist. We got a few weeks before him, a new hire, a lovely young girl, age 19, whom I trained. If you are new, you are prone to making errors, which is totally fine in my opinion. So I came in last Tuesday to hear my new boss screaming like a maniac at this young girl. I asked her what happened, and she said she filled out the wrong form, which happens even to me. My boss noticed it and screamed at her. I paraphrase it. Boss, you stupid little person, how dumb can you be to fill out the wrong form? I should fire you and make sure that you never find any work in this field again. My coworker started crying at this point. Then my boss stormed into his office and slammed the door shut. I asked my coworker if she was okay and she was still sobbing, so I brought her some coffee and took her to our office, Grandma. Everyone loves her so much. I was at this point pretty upset and told everyone what happened. After they learned what he did to our new coworker, 3 of them stormed into his office and quit after 25 years in this company. My boss said to them that they were worthless and overpaid. They told us that, and a plan was formed. Everyone will quit except for me for now. What my boss didn't know yet is we had a huge customer audit happening in 3 weeks, for which I am the only one certified to prepare. If we fail this, it would cost us 15 to 20 million euros, and the customer would pull the contract. So after my boss learned that the whole department quit except for me, he was even more upset. Boss, hey, why the hell did everyone quit? Me, maybe because you are an a-hole and a sexist pig? Boss, what did you just say, you jerk? Me, you know what I said? Do you remember the big audit in 3 weeks by customer X? Boss, yeah, what's about that? Me, you know that I am the only one certified to prepare for it, right? Boss, yeah, and? Me, I quit as well because I do not want to work for such an a-hole boss. See ya. And I walked right out to my other coworkers to say goodbye in the whole factory. The production VP noticed it and asked what happened, so I told him, and he was upset. He called the CEO, whom I knew pretty well, and said, Robert, the situation is critical. Come down to the production floor now. The CEO asked if it was important, and the VP said, if you want to pass the audit in 3 weeks, then move your rear end down here now. So the CEO came running down with the entire C-suite and asked what was so important. Then I spoke up and said our whole department quit today and won't come back until this person gets removed and fired. Then they asked what happened, and we told them. They were angry and asked how they could fix it. I said fire him and hire a better fit. Because I held the most training and qualifications, they asked me, which I gladly accepted. So we took off to my new office with my old department and the CEO in tow. My boss saw me and said arrogantly, "Decided to come back and beg for your job back, you little R-word." Me, "Nah, just to inspect my new office because you are fired by now." He laughed and said that I am under him and only the CEO can fire him. So the CEO came around the corner and said to my boss, "Get the heck out of my company. You are fired, and I'll make sure that every company knows what you did." My ex-boss was white as a sheet. After that, the CEO called the police and reported him for trespassing. In the end, I got a 70K raise and a bonus option, which I declined, and asked if we could split it for my co-workers. I don't need that much money, 1 million euros worth of bonuses. My CEO agreed, and everyone got their job back, and we completed the audit without any fails. The customer was happy, and so were we. The next one is a petty revenge story. This was approximately 25 years ago, and I still smile and laugh when I think about it. For context, I met my husband when I was 21, 48F now, and he was 34, 62 now. Hubby's ex was 13 years older than him, which puts her around my mother's age. This is important soon. We had been dating for almost 2 years, and his stepson Jack from a previous marriage was in a band and asked hubby to come see them perform. I had previously met Jack. We got along great, and he did include me in the invite. My man was just one in a line of 4. 5 husbands for Jack's mom, and he never seemed to care much for his mom. Jack did mention his mom would be there with a friend. There were plenty of tables, so no worries, right? Wrong. We get there. All is good. The band was playing, drinks were ordered, and the good times began. Hubby spots ex-wife and decides to go say hi. No problem. Hubby is seriously the kindest man I've ever met and has always tried to be nice to everyone. There was no cheating or anything terrible in their marriage. She was bad with money and blamed him for her kids' problems. He left after the counseling didn't work. She resented him because he was the only husband that left her. He goes over, says hello, and then ex waves her hand like she's brushing him off and says, "Thank you. You can go now." Hubby was not surprised, but I could tell he was pissed. Pissed he even bothered to try and pissed he let it get to him. He went outside to cool off. Cue my petty revenge! I walked over and I was calm and being as ladylike as I could. I asked her if she was pleased with herself, treating a good man like garbage again. She just smiled and laughed at me. I leaned in close so she could hear me, and I said, "You know what, it's okay, ma'am, I would slap you, but my mother, who is around your age, taught me to respect my elders. So you have a nice evening." And I went to find hubby with a very big grin on my face. We left, but Jack called hubby the next day, laughing his ass off, and congratulated me for pissing his mom off so bad she went home to another state. Still smiling, and we will be celebrating our 22nd anniversary next year. And for the record, I didn't meet hubby until he was 2 years divorced from this woman, and they had no children together. The next one is a malicious compliance story. This was about 10 years ago when I had returned to the local university to finish my bachelor's degree in political science. The preface: I was a non-traditional student, so I was a little older and a little more willing to question things. I was taking a 3,000-level political science course designed for policy majors and required for my policy degree. It was a fairly basic political science course, but the professor did some weird things. Specifically, there was a quiz every class over the assigned reading. These quizzes made up a significant part of the grade. But here's the tricky part. He seemed to be doing some sort of experiment with the wisdom of crowds. The setup, the correct answer for a quiz question, was the answer that was given by the most students in the class, a plurality, whether it was based on fact or not. Whatever the most students said was the answer, that was the correct answer. For example, if the question was, "What year was the U.S. Constitution ratified?" Even though the factually correct answer was 1789, if the majority of people chose 1776, then 1776 was the right answer and you got credit for your answer. If you chose 1789, you were wrong and didn't get credit. This forced you to make a decision. Try to be factually accurate or try to figure out what the crowd was going to do and go with that. Neither guaranteed you a correct answer. The majority of the time, the majority of students would actually choose the factually correct answer. But if it was a common misconception or the question was poorly worded, then that could lead to a situation where the crowd was wrong. But here's what drove me nuts. I was not willing to make my grade dependent on whatever the other students thought might be the correct answer. My grade became dependent on conforming to what the crowd said was true. I had no real control over my grade since the wisdom of the crowd could be anything. A class of 30 students was probably not a large enough crowd to give you a good example of the wisdom of crowds. Learning the material was not the point. Conforming to the crowd was what got you a good grade. Cue malicious compliance and rebellion. I figured out that if we all agreed to choose the same answer for every question, then we could all guarantee ourselves a perfect score on the quiz. In reality, I only needed a plurality of people to go along with my plan. As long as I could muster enough votes for an answer, then we could control our destiny. It didn't matter if A was the correct answer or not. If we controlled the votes, we controlled our grades. And anyone who didn't go with us, they were going to fail regardless of whether their answer was actually correct or not. I met everyone at the door to the classroom and explained the plan. For every question, we are going to choose the first option. If it's multiple choice, it's option A. If it's true-false, we are choosing true. If we all agree to this, then we can all get perfect scores. If you decide to go against us, your answer will be wrong. The first class we did this, the professor figured out after a few questions that we were gaming the system. He had us redo the quiz and graded us on the factually correct answers. After the second class we did this, the professor changed the rules. There were 2 answers that would get you full points: the factually correct answer and whatever answer the majority agreed upon. Results. In the end, I was okay with this arrangement. I could study and give the correct answer without being penalized for not conforming to the crowd's thinking, or if I made the same mistake as the majority of people, then I still got credit for it. And it was a good discussion point for the class. Yes, I got an A in the class. I'm not sure if the professor ever figured out who organized the rebellion, but I did end up working with him in grad school, and we got along just fine. Afterward, I always wondered, did he do this to teach us about the power of grassroots organizing? It might not have been his intention, but he turned me into a leader even though I never wanted to be one. I organized a campaign to overthrow bad leadership, and we created a new regime where truth and discourse were both valued. And we learned that a plurality of voters can determine the path forward even if they are not the majority. The next one is an entitled people story. So I live on the big island of Hawaii, and last year I was working at a local resort doing concierge. Most of the job was helping people figure out what they want to do while on vacation, like snorkeling, guided hiking tours, helicopter rides, etc. One afternoon I was approached by a guy who wanted to take a tour to the Captain Cook Monument, which is known for having great snorkeling, but is only accessible by a steep and fairly grueling hike, or by boat kayak tour through a permitted company of which there are only a few. He wanted to go that day or the day after, and I explained that unfortunately all of the tours were fully booked. Unfazed and without pause, he tells me to find him another boat. I explained that only certain boats are allowed to be in that area, and all of them were full. He insisted that I get on the phone and start calling anyone I could who had a boat that he could pay to take him there, and he kept saying money isn't an issue, just find me a boat. I calmly explained again that that was not possible or legal, and that no local boat captain would risk losing their license to take him there. Exasperated, he finally gave up on the boat and started asking about other tours. At this point, I mentioned that one of my favorite local tours is for stargazing on Mauna Kea. I told him all about the incredible sunset views and absolutely breathtaking stars, and that you go up in a nice van with about 14 other people. He was interested in going up the mountain, but didn't want to be around other people or be on a tour for 8 or so hours. So he tells me to call the helicopter companies and find him one that will fly him up there for a private star show. I begin explaining that the mountain is restricted airspace due to the observatories at the top, and that even if it wasn't, that not only can the local helicopters not safely make it to 14,000 feet in altitude, but none of those companies do stargazing tours because they aren't trained for it and don't have the equipment. Again, he tells me to just call around and find him a pilot willing to take him up there, and again starts repeating that money isn't an issue. I once again calmly explain, while shrieking like a banshee internally, that no pilot is going to risk the loss of their license as well as fines and jail time for taking him up there. Finally, he throws up his hands and says, "Fine. I guess I'll just go to the beach then." Like, yeah, dude, I feel so sorry that you left planning your vacation activities until you were on vacation. Clearly have issues being told no. And now your only option is to enjoy a stunning beach in one of the most beautiful places in the world. God, I hate rich people. The next one is an entitled parent story. I am currently 21 weeks pregnant with my second baby. Both my husband and I work from home full time. We recently decided that my current office will be a great room as the nursery for the new baby. We started packing up and moving stuff around in preparation. My mom is currently visiting from out of the country and staying with us. She saw what we were doing and commented, "So you and your hubby and going to both squeeze into his small office?" I told her that's not the case. I intended to convert the guest room into my office once the second kid is old enough to attend daycare preschool at around 18 months old. But we will put a sofa bed in there or have some Japanese futons. So in case we were to have guests, they will have a place to sleep and chill out in after I get off work. Interestingly, I have told her that plan in the past over video chat, and she thought it was a good idea back then. She claimed to have no recollection of that conversation happening and immediately proceeded to get passive-aggressive with me, saying, "Okay, fine, I won't visit again then." I had to remind her that is not happening till at least 2 years from now, and there will still be space for her to stay in when she comes to visit. Besides, when my husband and I are working during the day, we hardly spend any time in the living room or family room. She has access to all those spaces. She essentially sees our current guest room as her room and expects us to keep it that way for the foreseeable future, for the few days out of the year she is visiting us. Other than that, it will just be a vacant bedroom that no one spends any time in. She complained to my dad, who actually confirmed that I have indeed spoken to them about my plan, so now she is also embarrassed at getting called out for opposing to what she had said in the past. She just felt like she is entitled to that room in my house, even though she spends only around 1 month total out of the year visiting us. She has been giving me the silent treatment since the argument, and whenever I try to talk to her, she would answer with a ton of attitude and basically told me to duck off. Both my husband and I find her reaction ridiculous, and are not ready to coddle up to her unreasonable demand just to keep her happy. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.